Welcome into another podcast here on Zion Media. So, the big story that everyone's been talking about is Charlie Kirk with the assassination. They're still talking about it all these months later. Recently, we had Joe Kent, the director against national terrorism, I believe, for the Trump administration, who recently resigned over the Iran war, saying that he was basically shooed away from the Charlie Kirk investigation. I've had people tell me that this is the biggest cover up since the JFK assassination. Now, Candace Owens, who was friends with Charlie Kirk, she's really dug into this a lot. She's really pissed off a lot of the establishment Republicans with the way she's digging into it. And recently, I believe it was yesterday, she takes a shot at Nick Shirley, seemingly attacking him over this. So last night, I got a text message from some guy. He said he wanted to remain anonymous. He's from Arizona, which, I mean, he didn't tell me who he was, but I know that Turning Point USA has some connections in Arizona. So I don't know if he could be connected to that or anything. But he said that he wanted to go into this, right? And he's telling me about it, what Candace Owens was doing, taking the shots at Nick Shirley. And I'm actually like, I know Nick Shirley. And I don't know him super well. We're not like best friends or anything, but I've met him. We have friends in common. We follow each other on Instagram. I know Nick Shirley. And so I actually told him, I was like, yeah, I mean, I can sort of help your point a little bit because I have that perspective. Not a lot of you know this, but Shane actually went with Nick Shirley in a video on his channel to talk about the FLDS and polygamous compound stuff. So here is the video, and there is Shane Baldwin with Nick Shirley. And I would say Shane definitely knows Nick better than I have. I've met him like probably 1, 2, maybe 3 times. I'm not 100% sure. I know I've had lunch with him before. And actually, again, in case you guys don't believe me, here's me with Nick's brother, which I don't know him as well either, but he's actually in Shane Baldwin's ward at church. And so that's how I know these guys. And again, I don't know them super well, but what Candace Owens is implying is that Nick Shirley somehow made some sort of backdoor deal where he agreed to be on, I believe it was Charlie Kirk's podcast or something at a certain time, maybe pre-recording a video to give them a cover, and that's the reason why he's gotten access to all these things. Now I can say that I don't believe Nick Shirley made some sort of backdoor deal. I mean, I'll certainly play what Candace Owens had to say and give it a fair shot. I don't believe that. I've met the guy. He's not the sort of person that would do something like that. I think he's very sincere. In fact, the reason why Shane set up that lunch where we were talking to him, and he wanted me there for it too, was because Ryan, Nick's brother, was sort of showing Shane some of the stuff that they were doing on YouTube. Ryan Shirley has a YouTube channel as well where he does travel stuff. And they were going to sort of give some advice since they actually watch Zion Media. Now, I don't know how frequently Nick has time to watch it anymore about, how they were reaching such wide audiences, right? Because the thing Candace Owens is really going on about is like, how is this guy blowing up? Is he a CIA plant? Outside, I got a little close to the mic. Is he this? Is he that? Right? When in reality, even before he blew up with all this political stuff investigating, he was growing very quickly and he was very successful. And we're going to talk about the real reasons why. But now I'm going to play what this anonymous Arizona guy had to. He prepared something for me all night long, I guess. And then we're going to bring him on and he's going to explain to us where he's going with this. So without further ado, this is Candace Owens on Charlie Kirk and Nick Shirley.
All the look.
Or just doing ride-alongs with gangsters in Chicago as well.
Yeah. Okay. So this I saw it and I was like, this is like, it was some of the most incredible footage
Okay, so he's blown away by what Nick does. And Nick has definitely accomplished some amazing things as a 23-year-old. He also claims that within 48 hours, he managed, among many other accomplishments, he infiltrated Rio, Brazil's most dangerous gang. I'm not kidding. He did this in just 48 hours. I'll let you listen to Nick explain it. Take a listen.
Through the course of 2 days, I was able to get access to one of Rio's largest gangs, Comando Vermelho, and befriend a few of their soldiers who are so dangerous they cannot even leave the favela. Lots of strange things happened to find myself on top of Brazil's largest favela in a destroyed house, interviewing gang members of one of the largest gangs in Brazil.
Okay, I'm just gonna say I don't believe that at all. I'm sorry. I just it's so stupid. I'm not even gonna tell you why I don't believe it. It's like if you don't know that that's stupid, that he infiltrated the gang in 48 hours. That's so dumb. I'm so tired of dumb. That's not how that works. Okay, you don't just go up to gang.
I think that's exactly how it works. And we're going to go more into that. But listen, one of the things that when I met with Nick Shirley for that lunch, we had these amazing, I think it was like, it's not a waffle or a pancake. I forget what it's called, but it was delicious. It was at this nice restaurant. I also had steak with these fries. I remember the lunch that Shane, he's like, I want you to learn from this. Was Nick Shirley explaining how it is that he gets access to the things that he does. Because even before any of this Charlie Kirk stuff went down, he was going to far off countries. He was going to places where there were wars going on. He was going and getting down on the ground and actually going in and showing what was going on, right? And so Candace Owens, she's saying here, I don't really believe that someone could do that. When we asked Nick Shirley how he's able to do that, you want to know what he said? I just do it. Because sometimes it really is that simple. So many people overthink how to do stuff. And another person that comes to mind is Tim Pool, who I forget what event it was. There were certain protests over, it was Occupy Wall Street, I believe, where Tim Pool, host of the Timcast podcast, he got his sort of name by just being this guy who decided to go out there on the ground, where so many people overthink what they have to do. Most of the media is just completely controlled by some sort of bigger entity trying to push an agenda. So when we get some guy who is just confident, putting themselves out there, and they go after it, it's going to work, right? People are going to see the sincerity of that, and they're going to listen. So why would these gang members listen to Nick Shirley? I mean, if I had to guess, it's because, amongst other things, which we're going to get into, it's the sincerity of it and the confidence, right? Sometimes you can just approach people. People really don't understand the power of confidence. I really don't think that they do.
Things on the street as a nice looking white boy with a camera and say, hey, I just wanted to sort of see what you're doing here. What's going on? Okay, just stop. That's stupid. Of course, that's dumb. I'm sorry, Nick. I know you're young. I hope, whoever is your contact that has you infiltrating Antifa and infiltrating El Salvador at the age of 23 years old. It just feels like Sean Penn young to me. Like, oh, Sean Penn's always there with the cartels, never gets hurt, always is a part of a movie. I don't like stupid. That did not happen. Okay? That did not just happen. He didn't wander into a favela and meet up with gang members with a camera. And they were like, yeah, no, it's cool. Come here, see what we're up to. Anyway, some other interesting facts about Nick Shirley is that he is also a member of the LDS Church, sometimes referred to as the Mormon Church. They say they don't use that term anymore, of the LDS Church. And he also happens to be from Utah. So I thought, since I don't really care about what Nick does for a living or who his contacts are over in the government that clearly got him this access, I just want to confirm whether or not he did that show live.
Hey, Chad, I hope you've had a chance to share the Candace video from yesterday. It doesn't take long to see what's going on in Candace's mind about Nick Shirley. But her frustration is not really directed at Nick. Candace has to unravel the backstory behind every person who has ever come close to the Charlie Kirk assassination or to the new fake and gay TPUSA that has arisen from its ashes. Everyone is sickened by this. That's what you see in Candace's face and her tone and her body language. She's a warrior for God and truth and justice, no joke. But here's the rub. Nick Shirley is the locksmith, not the burglar. You don't need to investigate him. You need to recruit him. How can Nick walk into a den of thieves and come out alive? Yeah, and with confessions? By murderers, gangsters, Antifa, drug dealers, pirates, and fraudsters? It's not because he has a deep state hall pass. It's because he has God's protection, just like you, Candace. Without further explanation, this seems like a hollow claim. So here goes. You know how deep state recruitment goes. It's big in Utah for various reasons. It starts in high school. They look for top performers. They flatter the crap out of them and tell them they're being put on a CIA inside track to save America. It looks like Mensa or maybe a Rhodes Scholarship. It leads to Ivy League degrees and jobs at think tanks and key political positions and maybe field operatives. And you have a handler. Yeah, that's how it works. I think a lot of people are aware of that. It needs to be said, though. Here's the news. Nick Shirley does not have a handler. But what about Tyler Robinson? Yeah, maybe he has a handler. Nick Shirley was a top student in high school, and he may have been a target for recruitment. We think he received an academic scholarship, but walked away and chose a mission in Santiago instead. He chose the refiner's fire. Now he's a rabid truth seeker, honest to a fault. Not blackmailable, no drugs, no booze, no secret life. He's a mix of James O'Keefe and Ian Carroll. Let's compare that to what we think we know about Tyler Robinson. Top high school performer, an unexplained $20,000 scholarship to Utah State, and he attended for 6 months, and then he disappeared for nearly, 3 years. Did he get recruited? He goes gay, no job, no school, no income, but an expensive car. Then he's a lone gunman or a patsy. And nothing adds up. In a trial for murder, he comes off cool as a cucumber. Sounds like MK Ultra to me. So we can't confuse Nick Shirley with Tyler Robinson. But here's the bigger issue. Mormon doctrine warns us specifically of the deep state. But in Utah, it's not the Mormon Mafia. It's not a family. It's not organic. It's been cultivated by the bad guys to recruit good guys, then dull their conscience with power and money, cloaked behind the goodwill of membership in the church. The rigging of the assassination and the investigation is the tip of the iceberg, but it may be their undoing. These are the last days, and I can promise you there are millions of faithful members of the church who are praying every day that this evil may be done away wherever it exists. God tells us there will be a cleansing, and it begins in His house. Bring it. I know I don't speak for every American. I don't speak for every resident of Utah. I don't speak for every Mormon. But I speak in the name of Jesus Christ.
So that is what this guy sort of sent in to me. And we're going to have him on for a second. So to break that down a little bit, just so I understand the point he was making, and what Candace was saying, she's sort of implying that there may have been some backdoor access for Nick Shirley. And while there may be people like giving him offers and stuff now, I don't think it has to do with any sort of weird deal he made or something, which from what I was told on the phone call with the guy, she seemed to be implying that like he made some sort of deal with the conservative deep state. I don't think that's it, because he was able to get access to things on his own. But here's something that happens, and I've noticed this effect with myself a little. Now, clearly, I'm not as big on the internet as Nick Shirley, and I've sort of been on hiatus for a little bit, so my growth definitely has been so exponential. But I definitely early on got a lot of growth with my Instagram page. And made a lot of connections with people. I've had people who are much bigger than me with like hundreds of thousands of followers, even close to 1 million followers on some of them, reaching out to me because, they watch my content because they're familiar with it. And in some sense, Zion Media has become the gathering place for people who are Mormon, who are LDS, that are definitely not a part of, I should say, the mainstream LDS culture, who are just honest seekers of truth. And that's what I would say Zion Media kind of has come to represent in a lot of ways, where we don't push necessarily a specific narrative of things. At least I don't. I know I'm just honestly trying to put out truth. And there is a sort of effect where there is like, I'll call it the Joseph Smith effect, because Joseph Smith was 24 years old, same age I am, about the same age as Nick Shirley, when a lot of this stuff was going on with building a church, translating the Book of Mormon, all that. He was around our age. And there's an effect where when you see a young man who is putting himself out there and saying things that people wouldn't normally say, doing things that people wouldn't normally do, people tend to latch onto that idea. There's a certain charisma that comes with being young like that, where just with media in general, when it comes to Nick Shirley, we have a lot of like older people and maybe boomers or whatever. I don't know. And when people say boomers, just for context, because I had to make a comment on this, it doesn't mean like the literal baby boomer generation. It's a slang term for somebody that's like older and out of touch. It's not talking about a specific generation, right? It's just sort of, but we see that a lot with the media, where it's like sort of out of touch people that are part of the establishment and put in there. So we can say the same thing happened with Joseph Smith, where we have all these Protestant preachers who are pushing their narratives, and then this young guy who is articulate, he's pushing new ideas, he's doing this stuff, he puts himself out there, and people latch onto that. I'd say within the scriptures, it's in the Old Testament, there's this idea of the old wine being replaced with the new wine. So while I do think there's certainly now prominent people who may offer to help Nick Shirley with things, he definitely doesn't have a handler. I think he's just putting himself out there. And when you put yourself out there, people latch onto that, right? People like that. When you are confident, when you are sure of yourself, when you are fresh, you're pushing new ideas, people love it. And Candace Owens, she probably doesn't even realize that the same things probably happened with her. That anybody who gets any amount of popularity online, there is a similar effect where people begin latching onto that person. People always ask, who's pushing that guy? And yeah, there are actual like plants. But I can say, based on, again, meeting Nick Shirley, knowing him, having talked to him, there's been times where he's messaged me while he's watching a video of mine. I remember him watching one of the live videos and commenting some stuff on there. I don't remember what video it was, but it was months ago. He's not a plant. I don't believe he's a plant. Even if the conservative establishment may be pushing him in certain ways, it's more out of convenience for them rather than because they made some sort of deal with him where they get him access. It's like, oh, this guy is doing things like, going after Gavin Newsom that they like. And so they tend to latch onto that. That doesn't mean that there is some sort of conspiracy. And I'm someone who's huge on conspiracy theories. I just did a whole conspiracy video yesterday. So I think that about sums it up. Though there's another thing I'd like to address is this idea. Like, he mentions the Mormon Mafia, because that's something that Candace Owens talks about. And that actually has to do with some of the stuff we've talked about here, where we've had on Jason Preston, we've had on Justin Riggs, talking about that sort of thing, like secret combinations in Utah and in the LDS Church specifically. For context, if you missed the video, I did a video, just got a text message, called "Is This Guy the Mormon Jeffrey Epstein?" talking about a man called Gordon Bowen, who he's not a member of the LDS Church anymore. He's been excommunicated, but he has connections to very prominent people, and both governmentally within the church organization and he's actually works heavily within the church office building. And I would like to distinguish between the church office building and the Brethren, because it was actually the prophet Ezra Taft Benson, who everyone loves Ezra Taft Benson, who talked a lot about secret combinations. I believe he was the Secretary of Agriculture in the United States. And there's a famous quote of his where he talks about how he's more worried about enemies within the church and within the church office building than he is about enemies outside the church. So as a member of the LDS Church, I don't think that we are required to sustain everything within the church office building, the corporation, to keep our membership. I don't believe the corporation has any sort of priesthood authority. It doesn't. Working for the corporation does not hold any sort of priesthood authority. So when I'm digging into this stuff like this Gordon Bowen guy, who has allegations about this sort of what we'll call secret combination stuff, ritualistic abuse. There's a reason they're calling him the Mormon Jeffrey Epstein, right? That is not a shot at the church. And like he said in that video, Anonymous Arizona, upon his house, it begins. So there is this idea of a Mormon mafia that Candace Owens talked about. Is Nick Shirley connected to anything like that? Absolutely not. That's ridiculous. Because, like, literally, like, the reason why I specifically met him that first time I ever talked to him was because Shane Baldwin wanted me to learn from him, for one, and understand how it is that he is able to get into these places, like countries and wars, and record it. And it's literally just as simple as he's confident and he does it. But there's also this aspect of the light of Christ, where what do we see? We see Utah as the top place for sales in general, let alone door-to-door sales. We see Mormons dominating the door-to-door sales industry. I know. I've been in door-to-door sales. I am doing door-to-door sales right now. So, if you need a quote or a free inspection on roofing, siding, windows, hit me up. But I've done solar. I've done other stuff. It's dominated by Mormons, returned missionaries. And they can literally just show up on these people's doorsteps and just talk to them. And the mission itself builds that skill. They're used to being rejected. They're used to handling rejection. And by doing that stuff over and over, you get a sense of this sort of how to read people's energy, I'd say. Just like instinctual, knowing how to respond. When someone comes out the door aggressive, like, hey, get off my property. You know how to respond. I've had guns pulled on me doing door-to-door sales. Like, I knock on someone's door, they come out with a gun, right? And I'm not someone who served a mission. Honestly, I would say Nick Shirley, definitely a more pure person to me. I've lived more of like an Alma the Younger type life. So it's just funny seeing him, accused of like, oh, he's getting backdoor connections. Like, no, it's not. This guy's intentions are 100% pure. He's not making any sort of weird deals. But without further ado, I'm going to bring on the guy who called this in now. Okay, so why don't you introduce yourself a little bit? You said you're from Arizona. Are you connected to Turning Point USA at all?
No,
or is that
no connection. No connection, but everybody here is like super aware because of all this insanity. And so I've been, let's just say we in the church are extremely well trained with a very open mind about conspiracies. We don't consider them theories. We know the doctrine. The doctrine teaches us that this crazy stuff is going on all around the world and in our own nation and in our own backyard. And so none of us will deny that. And we might stick our head in the sand, but we'd be wise to not do that and be aware of what's going on and make a stand in whatever way that we're capable. And I look at Candace and look at what she's dealing with. I mean, she's really slaying dragons everywhere she goes. She's a hero. She truly is. But at the same time, her frustration is visible as if she's hitting a wall and she's groping around for, okay, what other, things are out of place and don't make sense. And yeah, she's hitting a wall. But guess what? Nick is the only guy out there walking through walls. I mean, just like you said, right? Doors closed, he opens it and he walks right in. And he finds the first person he bumps into. He looks him straight in the eye, shakes his hand, and they start talking. And he starts asking questions and gains their trust in a matter of seconds, and is led to the next person, and then everything opens for him, right? And if Nick is walking through walls, then Candace shouldn't be, casting him down. Actually, you ought to be pulling Nick in. Candace should pull Nick in. Because in a way, if you think about it from Kansas perspective, Utah is like a, kind of a closed box, right? And what does it take to go in, to get into the deep state or all the confusion that is behind this whole assassination thing and the show trial and all of this ridiculous stupidity? What's needed? Well, someone to break down the doors, to walk in, ask dumb questions and get answers, and then not stop. And Nasta, that's what Nick does. And so I say they should be teaming up, and it will probably result in great things.
And one thing I'd add on that is, like, one thing I've noticed doing door-to-door sales is, like, the first 5 seconds that you encounter somebody decide how they see you and for the rest of the interaction. And so when I'm in a bad mood, I'm sucking for the entire day until I get my energy up, until I get it. And one thing I've noticed, for example, with certain people is that if you come off as more kind-hearted and innocent and sweet, they're more likely to give you a chance. In fact, I've also noticed that girls in general tend to do better with door-to-door sales. Like, there'll be a girl who goes out, she's never done any sales at all before in her life, just some cute girl, and she'll go out and instantly be one of the top earners, right? No sales experience, doesn't even fully know the pitch, but from day one, she just goes out there and gets it done. And it's because the way people perceive you changes it. So she's saying, like, oh, you think this white kid is just going up there to gangs? And yes, I do. I think that they're going to see, because you have to understand, gangs are people too. They're not just ruthlessly killing people for no reason. And when they sense, like, if you actually understand how people who maybe are involved with that sort of stuff think, a lot of them do have their own sense of morality, their own sense of justice. And somebody going up to them who may have pure intentions, now that doesn't mean I think you should go up to dangerous or potentially dangerous people. I certainly wouldn't recommend it. And I would say they would probably treat a girl who seems more sweet and innocent a lot differently than a guy. But just Nick going up with these pure intentions, just being this nice guy, he's going to be able to get conversations out of them, especially with the confidence he has. And there's also this aspect you were talking to me on the phone about like the light of Christ with that. So.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, stare someone in the eye, your light shines, they can't turn away. You stick your hand out and you shake hands and you say kind words, right? How does God work? That's how God works, right? And that's how the Holy Spirit works. And this is exactly what missionaries do all day, every day. And they become ridiculously fearless, actually, right? Fearless, because they also know that they have God's protection. And you go, yeah, there can be dangerous situations, but guess what? There's probably 500,000 stories about that and how they escape nearly with their lives or whatever. But you go through that a bunch of times, like on your mission, and you become fearless. And you can see that in Nick Shirley, right? And that's why I say he can walk through walls. That's the point. He can walk through walls. And guess what? So if he is not deep state, if Nick Shirley is not deep state, and if he can walk through walls in the manner that we're talking about, not like in a physical sense, but I'm saying break down the barriers, then he is the most dangerous man in Utah, dangerous to the people who are trying to cover this whole thing up, trying to make it disappear, trying to do the show trial, even a mistrial, right? They may be trying to arrange a mistrial and they say, oh yeah, Candace polluted the jury pool. It's all her fault. Nick got out on a technicality and now he's run off to some who knows where, right? This Tyler guy. right? And it's all for show, and it's all meant to be a complete train wreck. It's a train wreck now as we watch it unfold, and then it's going to blow up later, pretty much guaranteed, right? In my opinion. And so, yeah, Nick's the guy, right, who can unravel all this stuff. I mean, the whole sensitivity, as we know, to every member of the church about what we call secret combinations. These are people who are doing evil together. You go, we can articulate what then would the conspiracy be? If there's a conspiracy going on, what would it be? How do you just wrap it up in like 2 or 3 sentences? And I'll say it, okay? That it looks like there's a group of powerful people in Utah who are dealing with the conservative deep state and maybe Fort Huachuca to drag us into a war with Iran. And you go, well, that's jumping all the way to the end of the rainbow. Yeah. What's the step in between? Get rid of Charlie Kirk. He was the barrier. He was the one who could talk Trump out of war with Iran, and he had to be eliminated. And you go, and somehow, maybe powerful people, maybe in the judicial and prosecution and other high roles, are going to play along to make it disappear. And the feds are going to say, "Oh no, it's out of our hands. Oh, it's a Utah thing. It's out of our hands." That's what they're saying, and it's preposterous. For the biggest assassination since JFK, for the feds just say, no, we don't care. You guys just do it. It's no problem. It all stinks, every bit of it. And it gets cracked open on the ground. Hey, you know what? Web sleuthing and all the stuff that Candace is doing is unbelievable. Guess what? It does require feet on the ground. Yeah. People who understand the culture, people who are willing to believe the unbelievable and knock down the doors and walk right through them. And we're talking about Nick Shirley. Like, that's his middle name.
So here's a question for you. Why do you think that there are so many deep state connections here in Utah? Why do you think there's so many United Nations?
Yeah. I think this is prophetic. I mean, we can look at the Old Testament. We can look at the time of Christ. But and this is rather biblical, and I know the audience loves it, right? So no problem. The idea that Abraham was promised the land of Canaan for his inheritance. And, there was a bit of a sidetrack for 400 years in Egypt, right? Slavery, right? The whole family, the whole house of Israel. We're talking, 1 million or 2 Israelites, the whole family of Israel, all 12 tribes stuck in Egypt in slavery. And then Moses popped them out. Congratulations. Thank you very much, Moses. And what do? They headed back to the land of Canaan. What did they find? Evil stuff. Well, how is it that evil, and you want to say Nephilim, you go, no, there was evil stuff, worshiping of false gods in just the most horrific manner, right, that was going on among the Canaanites. And you go, so why did the devil, let's just say, why did Satan decide that he wanted to really pollute that land? The reason is because it was promised to Abraham, and he knew it. And if he's going to decide to just ruin a place, well, then he's going to go do that, in the land of Canaan, so that when the family of Israel showed up, they would have a real mess on their hands. And you go, okay, so fine. Let's just say the same thing, perhaps, is what's going on in Utah, that the saints have built a beautiful place, a beautiful community to build the church, and the devil wants to ruin it. And this is one of his ways. And he's been doing it. And you go, but is it really that bad? You go, well, here we go. We've got the Charlie Kirk thing, and it looks really bad. I mean, like a cover up of, at a monumental level. And we don't know how many other not happy things are going on, but it's virtually prophetic that the church will be infiltrated, that therefore the government will be infiltrated and is being infiltrated, and that there's a house cleaning coming, and this is by God's decree. So we take it seriously.
Sorry, I wasn't on the stage, but I just want to play this clip from We Are the People real quick. And because it has to do with what we're talking about. And I sent you it earlier. I know I mentioned we've had Jason Preston on here before, but this is talking about that same question as to why is this stuff going on. I think in some sense there is what you could call a Mormon mafia, but you have to ask the question, are these people really Mormon? Culturally, maybe. But there's definitely a very large group that I would call secular Mormons, culturally Mormon people. I think that there's quite a few people who maybe use that as ways to gain access, right? Like, again, I'm not going to mention any names because you got to ride the line when you're talking about this stuff. If you want to research the stuff, go to We Are the People and read it. But there's, for example, specific politicians that are connected to this guy we call the Mormon Jeffrey Epstein, who maybe they present themselves as Mormon on the surface, but if they are connected to and know that sort of person personally, again, I'd never hurt myself. If I do, you know why. You have to ask yourself why that is. So I'm going to play this clip now. Actually, this clip is, it seems the audio is broken. I tried to download it. Shoot. But we've had all sort of technical difficulties. I don't know why. The StreamYards crash multiple times. Sometimes the video audios don't work. But essentially,
I'll make a point, if I may.
Yeah.
Okay. So one way to look at Nick Shirley, at what he's doing, what's his shtick, is that he is a cross between James O'Keefe and Ian Carroll. Now, for those who don't know who James O'Keefe is, I mean, he's the mega, infiltrator, a news reporter, right, who sneaks his way in or sends undercover, and this is in DC, for deep state like fraud and stuff. That he's done, dozens, if not hundreds, of these deep disclosure videos about the deep state guys admitting the crimes that they're doing. How they're organized, how they're managed, who's doing what. It's just unbelievable what he has accomplished. And he has had incredible opposition, them trying to destroy his company, destroy him personally. He is a survivor, and he has reached a state in his life where he says, my price is my life, meaning there's no selling out. You can try to come after me. You can try to tear me down. You can try to pay me off, but there's only one price, my life. I'm doing this. And even if it kills me, it doesn't matter. And that's James O'Keefe. He's amazing. Now, Ian Carroll is one of the new sensations of the young people who have, they see it the same way we do. There's a conspiracy around every corner. And, we don't have to be paranoid, and we don't have to overshoot. We don't have to begin to accuse innocent people of conspiracies, but we should be aware that the possibility exists. And he's he's able to articulate these things pretty clearly. And I see Nick Shirley as a cross between those two people. That makes him a high value person. And so then there's at least a context for where I think he exists and where he's going in the world, and why he's so valuable for what needs to be done in the state of Utah regarding this whole crazy situation of the assassination.
Yeah, and I don't think it's a coincidence when people are put in certain positions. Now, the problem comes in when they think Mormons are just a cult. And so they're going to be suspicious of anything that we do. I'd say that's the biggest problem. They don't consider us to be Christians. And you know what? There's a part of me that says, looking at what a lot of Christianity has done, I'm like, I don't want to be associated with that, right? Like we have, I don't know if it was like Pope Gregory or someone, and I'm not taking any shots at the Catholics. I love Catholicism, but it was some like leader or some pope who were going against a heretical cult, they would call it, of Christians. I think they were called the Cathars. And when they were slaughtering these people, one of the soldiers asked, well, how do we know who's our people and who's theirs? And the response is, well, God knows who's theirs, so kill them all. That's an actual story. So looking at a lot of the stuff that's done in the name of Christianity, I would say that's not good. But at the same time, I also notice the LDS Church in some ways falling into the same things that maybe the creeds did, where why were the creeds bad? Because rather than speaking to the voice of the Lord and having him direct what's what, they were just sort of voting on what they believed the doctrine to be and going to these councils, and they're like, well, we have the Spirit with us, we have the authority. 2 Nephi 28 talks about it, that God has done his work and done his miracles, and he has given his power to men. That sort of idea, it can apply to them back then, and it can even apply to us when we are just making assumptions about what's what and saying, well, because we have the authority, we are right about everything, and we don't have to wait for God himself to speak, thus saith the Lord type revelations. But, it's interesting that we have that sort of dilemma. So how do you think we go about that distrust that they have for us?
Well, I think we need to call it as it is. And here we go. We have 100,000 full-time missionaries in the field, most of them young. And we do this, we go out into the world to share the knowledge, the greater knowledge that God has given us, because we love the people whom we're serving. We love our Catholic friends. We love our Christian cousins. We love our Jewish friends. Take Jewish as an example. You go, how many churches or how many religious societies have in living memory a pretty good grasp of persecution? Yeah, okay, we got that. And we know that our Jewish friends have that too. And so we care a lot. And then the legacy of authority, we know that that's what holds the Catholics together, and we admire them for it. We love them for it. We only want to share what we have as well, which we know is authority of a kind that is not well understood by them. And our Christian cousins, why do we say that? Because we are cousins, 100%. And cousins can disagree. That's okay. When if a person accuses a Mormon that, hey, you guys are all going to hell or whatever, you worship a different god or whatever, please notice, it's like water off a duck's back. Why doesn't it bother us? Why don't we retaliate? Why don't we argue? Because we're utterly 100% confident in our position. And this is what Mormons do. They go out and they bear testimony of that which God has revealed to us personally. And all we want to do is share it. And we know that love is the answer, right? That's the oil that makes it all work. And you love whom you serve. We go out in the field and we serve everyone we can come in contact with. Look them in the eye, shake their hands, say something kind, and go from there. And that's what we do. That's what Nick Shirley does. And that's what every missionary does. And this is why they make great salesmen, exactly as you pointed out. And so the answer to addressing the point of, oh yeah, they might think bad things, is, I don't care. We don't think bad things of you. And when people are in trouble, everybody knows you can count on the Mormons. They might show up at the door with food and with gifts and with a warm handshake and kind words. That's what we do.
One thing I would say on that topic is that when you are doing as the Lord has instructed you, because here's the thing, if you can receive revelation from the Lord and you're willing to humble yourself, the Lord will use you as an instrument to do his work. And I believe Nick Shirley is doing exactly as the Lord has instructed him to do. And what I will say is that a roadblock that the modern members of the LDS Church have is trying to appeal to these other Christians with our beliefs and saying, well, we're just like you. We're not just like you. And we should stop acting like we're just them. Well, here's the thing I've noticed. When you are trying to do God's work, you will get opposition. There will be people who accuse you. That's why, what got me to consider Joseph Smith might be telling the truth was when I was researching conspiracy theories and stuff, and I see a guy who's quite controversial, Andrew Tate, where early on he's saying a lot of things that people would consider to be very misogynistic, and he kind of tones that back quite a bit, and he starts going more into conspiracy theories and stuff and calling out evil things going on in the government. And it's as soon as he does that he starts getting pushback. As soon as he does that, he starts getting accused of things. He is imprisoned for, I believe, 3 months without any sort of actual evidence against him, accused of sex trafficking, essentially. And then the charges are dropped because there was no evidence. And some of the women who he supposedly sex trafficked come out publicly and say, that didn't happen. They're making that up, right? So I look at that and I see Joseph Smith being accused of certain things, and it made me pause. And then I've experienced that in my own life, where when you are doing things, you will get accusations, whether they are partially true based on some truths or fully false. For example, I've talked about this in the video. I had this guy he was my roommate, and the entire time most of the time he's with me, he's doing weird stuff. And it's pretty clear that the reason why he was acting like he was my friend a lot of times, because a lot of times the people you can't trust, they act like they're your friends on the surface. It's obvious that he was trying to get access and influence, and he saw that I had influence. And even one time when he freaked out on me, he was like saying that he didn't think I deserved to be in the position I'm in or whatever. But anyways, this guy, long story short, he completely freaks out on me one time, destroys the entire apartment. I call the police and take him away. Then it turns out he put a tracking device in my car. I have all these people reach out to me saying that he was DMing them, saying that he was some sort of spy who was going to expose me and expose Zion Media and all this stuff. And he put a tracking device in my car, right? And so it's a very bizarre thing. I've seen similar things happen where people will push back and freak out on you for no reason. As soon as I started being friendly with Zion Media, before I'd even met them, I was just I did a podcast with them. I had people who started shunning me, for even giving them a chance. And all that really did was push me more towards that. So when you see that energy, that hatred for no reason, you know what that's happening. I've even had it where it's I become friends with somebody, or a girl who's interested in me or something, where because of the things I'm talking about, the spiritual things, they tend to wake up, and it changes their perspective, and they start changing certain things in their life, not because I told them to. And then people around them who don't even know me just hate me for no reason. So there is always going to be that pushback. How do we deal with that pushback? You own it. You confidently own it. If they're going to hate you, they're going to hate you. Stop trying to convince them to love you. Just be you. All right? Because that's the spirit of the devil upon people when they just hate for no reason. And sometimes there is just people latching on to what other people say and do. It's not that every person's being influenced by Satan to hate you, but other people will latch onto that spirit based on what they've heard, and they won't think for themselves. So if you go forward and you show good fruits and you show who you truly are, I think the truth will pierce those who are honestly seeking the truth. What do you have to say on that?
Yeah, well, and I think I have, examples in my own life, my own history, that is probably parallels exactly what Nick Shirley experienced. He's probably experienced it, 10 or 100 times what I'm about to relate to you. So I served long ago in Osaka, Japan. And it's the language was difficult, but then I mastered it. Yeah, gift of tongues. That's how that happened. Yeah, one day, suddenly I could speak fluently and I sounded like a native. Okay, yeah, it was a gift of tongues, and it happened to me. But then after that, things went kind of bonkers, and I could walk up to any person and I'd do exactly what I mentioned, exactly what Nick Shirley does, look them straight in the eye, and you just are immediately kind and open to that person. And so I bumped into all different kinds of people. Yes, even Yakuza. We're talking about Osaka is where all the Mafia is in Japan. And I walk up to these guys, you see them, they're full of tattoos and all this stuff. Doesn't matter. You look them in the eye and you greet them and you say something kind, and then let it go from there. Yeah, and that's right. They would invite us to their home to teach their family religion. Yeah, and they know that we're in for 10 lessons once a week. They know that, and they would listen to the first couple and say, "Yeah, you guys go ahead, teach my family, teach my kids, teach my wife, keep going." Yeah, they're busy, they're off doing stuff. Maybe they're running gambling, or maybe they're doing other things. Yeah, we knew about that, but we walked right in their homes. They swung the doors open. And you go, how does that happen? You go, yeah, that's exactly how it happens. That's exactly what Nick Shirley experienced. That's exactly why he can walk up to anybody and repeat that and then engage with them on their terms. What's going on in your life? Tell me, right? You got a camera in your hands. You go, listen, you're a human being. Come, talk to me. And that's how it unfolds. And it takes seconds to do it. And as you mentioned, light of Christ, that is the key. The light of truth, the light of Christ that is within us. We are serving God. We are representatives of Jesus Christ. And that's not just missionaries, because every member a missionary, that is our duty to carry around with us at all times, with all persons that we bump into. Yes, even if they're harsh, right? Because God said, because Jesus Christ said, pray for your enemies and those who despitefully use you. So maybe they're not your enemy, but they're treating you badly. Doesn't matter. Smile, be kind, pray for them on the spot, right there, silently, while you're looking them in the eye, saying kind words. See where it goes. That's why God told us to do it that way.
Yeah, and I would say on that same topic, there is a sense, and I hate to use the word criminals because I don't want to be insulting, but like whether it's like gang members or specifically with Yakuza, because I know the Japanese definitely have a sense of honor that they believe in. There is oftentimes a moral code that these type of people live by, right? Where there's a respect and the people can read your intentions. We are always intuitively sensing each other's energy without even realizing it, right? People who have like what you would call psychic gifts or whatever, they've just trained to be able to do that because our consciousness is beyond our bodies. And so they can sense your intentions. And so if it is somebody who lives by their own honor code and they sense that you are somebody honorable, they will accept. That's what I believe. And that's not to say that there aren't genuinely bad, ruthless people out there, but there are people who may act that way as a part of their own code. But I do have that video pulled up now. I found a version. I got it re-downloaded. So if you saw me like looking at my phone or whatever, that's why. And so I'm going to try and pull up that video again, talking about Utah and why is it that there is this United Nations deep state stuff here in Utah. If I can, there it is. Let me pause the video real quick while I get pulled up.
Talk about the United Nations and Utah. What do we know about that?
I got to just say up front, and this is my viewpoint, we have the best of the best people here.
No doubt.
No doubt about it. We have the worst of the worst. It's the duality factor. So we just have to stand for what's good and let people make the decision because we are still we, the people. Majority still should rule in the state. And I think the vast majority of people in Utah are good, honest, hardworking people.
Absolutely.
They're
Just deceived.
they're just as lulled to sleep because they don't see. This is why we're doing the show, I hope, to help wake up even a dozen people if they can tell a dozen more, and before long it becomes trending. Where do we go from here? Well, there is so much good that can come out from people awakening and stopping this nonsense.
Because I do want to hit this. The only place the UN meets in America outside of 666 Rockefeller is where?
Utah, Salt Lake City. 68th annual conference was held in Salt Lake City. First conference ever to be held in the U.S. outside of the UN headquarters in the buildings in New York City. You got to ask the question, why Utah? Why not Colorado? Why not Denver? Why not L.A.? Why Salt Lake City, the red of the red, the deepest red state? I just ask the question, could this have anything to do with Envision Utah?
So again, that's the clip I was trying to pull up earlier where they're talking about, the United Nations connections in Utah, and how we have the best of the best people here and the worst of the worst. So could that have something to do with the Charlie Kirk stuff? I don't know. But it's a really interesting thing. But you said you had some comments about Shane Baldwin.
Right. And before I hit that, there's why would Utah be such an important target for like CIA recruitment? I say CIA, let's just say deep state. All the agencies, these are competing factions, right? And they love it that there's so many people skilled in language. They're diehard patriots, right? They are honest to a fault. They are not corruptible. Right. I mean, no one's incorruptible, but I'm saying they have pretty solid standards for themselves. They can keep secrets. This is what Mormons are. I mean, it's inbred, right? It is absolutely to the core. The CIA looks at that and says, okay, I think I want some of those guys on my team, and then might they be corrupted over time? They might get involved in some of the deeper stuff, not just the honest work that is often done, but they might get sucked into that. And okay, it happens. And is that okay? Well, we can just kind of put that aside, but I think that's why it is widely known that Utah is a hunting ground for recruitment on that, premise. Okay, so let me just back up that also to talk about the Shane Baldwin thing. When we talk about, what is this, how is this manifest this idea that we try to purify our hearts, we try to realize that God loves us, and if he loves us, the scum that we are, then what does he think about all these people around me? Guess what? He loves them just as much, and we're obligated to share that, right? We're obligated to push that out into the world. And you go, what? Even among the bad guys, you go, think about it. Shane Baldwin in prison for 5 years. What do you think happened? Well, and most of this audience knows, I hope so. And you can see the charisma, the love in him. He is dedicated to service, to serve people, to share God's love, right? To work like a madman. What do you think happened in prison? I think he was surrounded by people who flocked to him and said, hey, can you help me? Because they're not used to having such a highly skilled and disciplined person among them, I bet, for many of them. And they said, I don't know what you have, but please teach me. I think he taught a lot of religion, and he shared a lot of God's love with people who may have never felt it before. And that's a miracle, but guess what? It happens every day, and that's what we do. God has commanded us to do it, and we feel passionate about it.
Yeah, and I can personally say Shane has introduced me to some of the people who he knows from prison, whether in person or on the phone. And I've heard a lot of these stories. And essentially, again, if you don't know Shane's story, he's one of the main guys from this podcast. I'm at his house right now. Here's his book he made about positive mindsets and manifestation called The Honest Lie, because he's very big into that and the power of faith. But Shane, he around 2014 started waking up spiritually, trying to figure out who he was. He had some things going on in his life. He was a very wealthy, worth like $200 million, guy, involved in a lot of financial things. I forget the company he worked at. It was like called Silverleaf or something. And essentially, from what I understand, he gets busted by the FBI for some stuff where he was basically the fall guy for some of the financial stuff that his company was doing, right? And that's one of the reasons why they call him the Mormon Wolf of Wall Street. And then he was supposed to be in prison for 5 years, and in the state, he was already going through spiritual stuff beforehand, really asking God what his purpose was. But when he's imprisoned, for example, his wife divorces him over that and remarries another guy when he's going through it. And he has some of the most spiritual experiences of his life in there. And what you're saying is 100% accurate from what he's told me, from what the people he knows from prison told me, right? I've had people telling me about their stories of people have done horrible things, being able to forgive themselves in there after, he's taught them the gospel and stuff, preaching to the spirits in prison, if you will. Them talking about their experiences, telling me about dark things that have happened in their life. I talked to his cellmate who was there when John visited him, telling that story. And overall, the experiences that were there in prison were exactly what you're talking about, where a lot of times when you are somebody with light, you tend to attract these broken people who are truly seeking it, because there's different types of broken people. There are broken people who just go deeper and deeper into their darkness, and I found this as well. This actually goes back to that similar effect, where it's a common thing that has happened in my life, where there will be these people who are just drawn to me, and they tell me how the way I live my life, because for me, it's not even been a religious thing. I've always just been, I'm going to do what I think is right, and I'm going to be confident in who I am, and I'm not going to do things because other people tell me to do it. I do things because it's my choice. And a lot of times people who maybe they feel pressured to conform to certain things or whatever, they're drawn to me, and they'll become obsessed with me to sometimes even start dressing with me. And it's been people who I've been friends with. It's been girls who've been interested in me. But it's always this common thing where they're telling me how that perspective changed your life. And literally, I'm not even doing anything. So to people who in this world, they feel trapped, whether it's by their own sin, whether it's by expectations, when you, not because you're anyone special, but you use your agency to choose that, to embody the light of Christ, they are drawn to you in that way. And again, this guy who was Shane's cellmate that I'm talking to, that's telling me this story about this person that visited them and taught them stuff, taught the book of Revelation to them. He's telling me his experiences. He's saying about how he had this baptism of fire when he was in prison. And that, like, without going into details, he was like coughing up afterwards, after he had this experience, coughing up blood and stuff, which is something that Joseph Smith said happens when people have this transformation. Even like it was like black stuff coming out of him, where there are these impurities coming out. And I don't remember exactly if it was the same guy who was cellmate who told me, or if it was another guy, because I've talked to multiple guys. But that happens. And it's by your own faith. It's not, when people tell me stuff like that, it's not because I'm special. When people tell Shane Baldwin stuff like that, it's not because he's special, but it's because of that confidence. And that's actually, again, Shane's book that he wrote when he was in prison. That's what he's talking about, is that it is your confidence. It is your faith that does it. And for me, as a teenager, that's what I naturally believed. And that's what I was telling people, that sometimes people would come drawn to me for that whole reason, where it's like your confidence shapes everything. You can literally bend reality through your confidence. I didn't even know manifestation was a thing back then. And so people are drawn to that energy. And I like to think that Jesus Christ was exactly the same way. Because all we have to base on who Jesus Christ was is the Bible. And we have a lot of traditions by Catholics and Protestants who have sort of shaped this view of Christ that the media holds. And I don't think that's accurate. I think the real Jesus Christ was a natural leader. I think he did draw people to him. I think he was confident. For example, like the woman at the well, when he's reading this lady's mind or perceiving her thoughts, and he's just telling her all this stuff, and she's like, how did you know that about me? Like, he had to be confident to just be able to go up and say that. And he was the Son of God. So obviously he was confident. And I think that there was a certain light that comes with that confidence, with not a sense of pride or arrogance, which is covering up insecurities, but with truly knowing who you are and understanding your purpose. What do you have to say about that?
Couldn't agree more. Well, and so, but hey, you know what? Before we wrap up, what I think we ought to announce, or what I'd like to announce, is that little video clip, not the Candace part, but that other 4-minute clip. Let's consider that free to use or announce. And on behalf of Zion Media, you might, please announce that that you will not retain a copyright on that. Why? Well, I mean, free to use. That's the InfoWars model. Everybody take it, do what you want with it. Try to keep it in as one piece. Why? Well, I think it's a starting point for a bunch of analysis that other interested parties, YouTubers in this field, who are trying to chase the Candace Owens story and what are all these connections, and they may want to just grab a piece of that and throw that, and then comment all they want, or expand on it and build on it, or argue or whatever, and that's perfectly fine. I think if you can make that same announcement on behalf of Zion Media, that you do not retain a copyright to that piece, then I think that's a mission accomplished.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think that sums it up quite well. It's the confidence. It's the pureness of intentions and being confident in your intentions. And when you move with that type of faith, the world moves around you. And whether Nick Shirley realizes he's doing that or not, I think that's definitely what it is. So, if you enjoyed this video, leave a comment. Leave multiple comments. All right. And when I do videos, I always try to respond to all the comments, or at least as many as I can, because it boosts the algorithm. If you really enjoyed this, feel free, and you thought it was interesting, feel free to share with someone you would think, or share with a group chat, because again, it does help. There's a new thing on YouTube called hype points, which has affected the algorithm. A lot of people have seen the algorithm being throttled. So after you like the video, there will be a little thing that pops up saying hype the video. And when you do that, it will make it so it spreads more in the algorithm. So hype the video. In fact, I'm going to go to YouTube right now. I'm going to find a video and I'm going to show you how to do that. One sec. So here we have Zion Media here on YouTube. This is the latest video from yesterday. And so this is me, again, talking about conspiracy theory stuff. I said I'm into that, talking about the Antichrist and things going on in the video. So there's 116. That code again. 116, the day of the year I'm born on. And my middle name's Lehi, too. Fun fact. So I don't know why it's not doing it on this video, but after you like the video, because it's weird. It does it sometimes. It doesn't do it other times. There should be a little thing that pops up saying hype video. I'm going to see if I can find it on another video, because I've already, on my other account, hyped this video. Okay, I just looked it up, and the reason why the hype button isn't showing up on the computer is because it's only for the mobile app. So if you don't have the mobile app on YouTube, you can't hype the video. But if you do have the mobile app, as soon as you like the video, there's going to be something that says hype. And to hype a YouTube video, use the new hype feature. Eligible creators can have fans boost new videos within 7 videos of upload by clipping hype in the mobile app, increasing visibility via a leaderboard, engaging viewers by asking them to use their free weekly hypes to support your content. So if you enjoyed this video, or the other video, which we were doing, which has it's already gotten 3 new likes in the couple minutes from it, then feel free to hype the video so that it spreads around, because it does help the algorithm. Now, you said you had a few more comments before we went on that.
Right. So yeah, I didn't want to dodge that. I slightly changed the subject about confidence, because you can look at confidence a whole bunch of different ways, and that's been a big part of this dialogue. You had an outstanding dissertation on it. I have a different spin, not a complementary spin. And that is, let's have a little Greek lesson. The word enthusiasm, the origin of the word enthusiasm is Greek. So there's 2 parts, en and theos. Theos means God. En means inside. The definition of enthusiasm is God inside. This is why the light of Christ, this is what we were talking about, the light of Christ. And that enthusiasm, or that confidence, really is emitted through your eyes as you make eye contact with people, which is a demonstration of love and respect for the person you're dealing with. Right. And it works. What is communicated? Yes, it's confidence, and it's enthusiasm, and it's passion, and all these things combined. But it is truly divine. And you can fake it. And I guess in Hollywood and other places we see people faking it. But when it's real and you're in front of somebody and they can feel it, they know exactly what it is. It's undeniable. And you can say it's a gift from God. And it's something that we should seek as a gift from God, as is charity, which is the love of all people. And all these things are commanded, that we must pursue these things. So I think you did that topic is powerful.
Yeah, and I think it's like the book of Romans says, the same Spirit of God that rose Christ from the grave dwells in each of us. Like Doctrine and Covenants 93 says, ye are the Spirit of truth, that which is intelligence is unincreated. And so we have the same eternal intelligence within us that God has, the same uncreated light we are made of at a lower level. And so when we are confident, when we act in faith, we can truly tap into that. I think that breakdown of the wordage of talking about confidence being God within deserves its own video. But until next time, make sure you leave your comments, hype the video, leave likes, and leave any suggestions below for the type of content you would like to see.
We come with our stories, our scars and our songs. Some weary from waiting, some learning be strong. But love called us here, and we answered the sound of grace drawing circles. No loss can be found.